says, get that India. Big boy.
Call an ambulance! Maybe call a priest! Oh, what a shot! What a shot! Campbell killer!
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Tip Sheet Podcast. As always, I'm your host John, also known as 4020, and joining me shortly in the future past tense is my good mate Sixties, as we sit down with General Manager of Football Operations at the Parramatta Eels, Mark O'Neill. As always though, before we get into the action, a quick shout out to the sponsors of the show, Big Swing Golf, North Mead, and Star Partners Real Estate, Auburn, Rowan and Parramatta, who continue to be brilliant partners of the Tip Sheet and the Cumberland Throw. And with the opening orders of business done, I will now throw up the 60s and our chat with Mark O'Neill.
In December every year, the Parramatta Eels head of football, Mark O'Neill, has been kind enough to join TCT to discuss the year that was and what lies ahead in the coming season. We're pleased to say that this year is no different. Mark, thank you so much for your time today.
No worries, it's a pleasure. I can't believe it's December, the year's just flown and Christmas is around the corner and before you know it, we'll be back in for another campaign.
Yeah, and just on that, we've been having a really great pre-season that's been happening. And the Project PARRAdise video was recently released by Eels Media. We noticed you and other staff participating in the overnight camp. It would have been interesting to be involved and to watch those processes from such close quarters.
Look, it definitely was. It's you feel a sense of privilege every time you're with the group, and to share such experiences like that is fantastic. It was a one-nighter. It was overnight. There was you saw the video, so it was there was a lot sort of involved in that. And I guess the purpose behind it was to just try and change things up a little bit, take players and staff a little bit out of their comfort zone. Just like in a game, you're planning on a particular way the game's going to go, and then all of a sudden it changes. And you might not have control to a certain degree over how it changes, but you do need to respond no matter what the change is. And so I think you'd see there the guys went from excited thinking they were going away to have a few beers and a feed, and then all of a sudden they thought, oh, this might be a little bit harder than what we thought, and then it mixed it up again and up out of bed at 1 and 4 o'clock and working through a few things. So it was changed deliberately, and nobody knew. Brad and his few of the coaches knew what was going on. That was it. And everyone responded really well, really well.
Well, I knew it was unexpected because I fronted up on the Friday morning to come and watch training, and I'm sitting there thinking, why is the player car park empty? And then all of a sudden, all the cars came piling in, and the players had obviously carpooled to get there, and they were all jumping out, and I thought, oh, okay, it's not going to be the usual session here. Something's changed, and yeah, found out later it was the big camp that went on.
So you didn't even get the heads up either?
I didn't get the heads up. No. But I guess if the players don't get their heads up, Joe Blogg's turning up to watch trainers is not going to get their heads up. So,
but it was good even in that context because Brad and the staff had already left, and when they played the video in the room, the Wiseman's very in.
Yep.
Be there, don't be late. And then when you went out to the car, there was signs on the car saying, look, you can only take 11 vehicles.
Yep.
So they had to problem solve and determine which cars are going.
Okay.
So it was really good. Like it was well thought out, and there was a lot of simple but effective initiatives like that brought the team together, and they had to display a level of leadership and care for one another, which was great.
Actually, just looking at the video, and there was even simple things like seeing some of the senior players with their arms around the young pathways players, as they're around in groups working, doing their problem solving. And that might seem like a little deal, but I'm looking at that and I'm seeing, well, here's the senior players embracing the young blokes as part of the squad. They're like, you're one of us.
Well, absolutely. And I think that's one of the takeouts that I took from the camp there is that we've got some wonderful people, staff and our players, and they really do care, and the pride that I could talk about in our playing group when we set up there, they were considerate of everyone else but themselves. They had to. There was only a certain amount of beds, and they made sure that staff and injured players were looked after. A lot of the guys were selfless in their actions in the way that they brought it all together. Like it was a privilege to sort of be there in that environment and witness it. Because something as simple as like even keeping the campfire going all night, just what a great time waster that is, and a connector. You're just sitting around. No one was going silly on the beers. You could have a beer if you wanted, but there was nothing excessive or anything like that because there was plenty more to do throughout the evening. But just to sit there and connect and hear the story, and it wouldn't matter if you were a player, 38 or, even on our extended list, or player number 1 or 2. They just all got around there, and just the connection was wonderful. And I was really, really proud of the guys, the way that they come together. We've got some good players, good people there.
And just in relation to that, the connection, I think, has to be there beyond just the players and their immediate staff, because even looking at that video, to produce a video like that, everyone has to be sort of on the same page about as well what could be filmed, even like something as simple as what's going to be filmed, what's going to be shown.
You're letting them into the sort of personal bubble of the team, aren't you?
It's like when we're talking about, okay, this is an inner sanctum experience for the fans, it's also an inner sanctum experience for, the media crew that are there, the Eels media. And even though they're part of the club, you look at something like that and you think, okay, well, the players, the coaching staff, they're like, okay, come in, you can come in and film. Might be discussing what's going to be shown later, but,
sure.
Welcoming them in.
And we want to get better at that. We want to be able to tell the story and show the story, and we want to live our mission, and that is to uplifting lives, create memorable moments, and bring communities together. And that's just one example of how we can do that. And the access that Brad and his team provided, and the playing group as well, with their permission, it was fantastic, because not only do we want to be better at that in terms of our connection with our community, we want to get everyone, as many people as we possibly can, to identify as an Eel, feel that sense of belonging, that this is our club, the community feel that we've got. And if we can live our 4 values in united, accountable, all in, and respect, and talk to demonstrated examples around those quite freely, openly, confidently, and on numerous occasions, and bring that to life throughout our whole network, not just from the football department, but the whole of business and our extended external stakeholder network. I mean, that'll be a club that everyone wants to be proud of, and that's what we're striving towards. We need to get better in certain areas, and we've certainly got a commitment to do that.
And on a lighter note, I think Sean Russell has an early contender for Clip of the Year in his response to the task that Brad Harper gave him to steal Bryce Cartwright's backpack. I think the frick, as he looked at the camera, is going to be tough to top. But
there were some good moments there. Good crew, and like I said, it's just great to be part of it. To be fair,
and obviously the camp is just one part of the preseason, and it's a preseason that's looking a little bit different this year. But what positives are you seeing out of what we're seeing, or what we have on the Kellyville training park right now?
I'm seeing a lot of positives. Like, I guess, an uninterrupted pre-season. Like, when I say that is, unfortunately, we didn't go deep into the competition like we would have in 23, but that brought us back a little bit earlier, following on from the year that all clubs had, I guess, last year with the World Cup. So it was good to start early. The young players that we've had come into the squad have brought a lot of energy and enthusiasm, which is good, because it puts a lot of the older blokes, I guess, on notice, the more senior blokes. It keeps them young, it keeps them refreshed, I should say. They're always working hard. All pre-seasons, they have to be hard, because you won't enjoy your football otherwise. And they're designed to make you and not break you. So the energy and effort that they've brought in, the connectedness of the guys, I've mentioned there's a wholehearted commitment to return to where we feel that we belong in finals football. That won't come. You will have to go and make it happen and grab it. But some of the youngsters like Blaze, Ethan, Woods, Richie, Saxon, Charlie, Jock, Sam Tuilagi, Josh Lynn, a lot of them had successful seasons individually and collectively last year as a team, but they've come through now and train them in the full-time program. And it's just great to see when young, talented, confident and energetic players come through. It just lifts up the standards, the bar of what is normal accepted practice, because they break through a few barriers and create their own bar.
Yeah, they've been impressive so far. But let's rip off the Band-Aid from the season just gone. 2023 wasn't what we wanted it to be. Why?
Well, ultimately, if I was to issue a short answer, is that we weren't good enough. There were some factors that, will come into it, and people will talk about it, i.e. the way we started the season, some suspensions, some injuries at key times. All these things are factors, there's no doubt about it, but they're factors not just unique to Parramatta. All clubs has to deal with challenges around that. I think, and to be fair to say, around depth in some key positions played a part in that. At the end of the day, I guess we weren't good enough, and as harsh as that sounds, it's a reality, and we need to take our medicine and be better next year, because there'll be a lot of other teams that will look to continuously improve, just like we will be as well.
It might just be correlation, not being causation, but the last time the Eels stumbled was in season 2018, which corresponded with a Rugby League World Cup, just like we saw in the season past. Is there something there perhaps in the way of a shortened preseason, maybe impeding the way Parramatta tend to plan out for their fall campaign?
Yeah, look, it'd be unhelpful, I'd say, but I reckon if you asked every club, they would love a full pre-season to work with their players, but we're on a journey as well around just our identity as a club and our game model, and I don't think we've ever been more congruent with the style of how we want to play and our coaching and training methodology to give ourselves the best chance of success. So there's a lot of determined players and staff down here in the footy department that want to show that last year will be proven to be an outlier, and we return to some performances like we've had the previous 4 years to that. And
you said, frankly, that we weren't good enough, and I think that's a fair statement. But is there anything positive that we can take away from the season in 2022?
Oh, look, 100%. I think there is, whether it's players, younger players gaining another year of experience. I think of, like, say, for example, like a Will Penasini. For that, there's a lot of players that we debuted throughout the year that'll be better for their experiences. We had 4 players that played in an Origin series in the 1 year. I can't remember the last time that's actually occurred. It certainly hasn't been in the last 5 years in my time, and probably more beyond that. But I guess the victories that we took over Penrith, particularly the last game out at Penrith, where some may argue we didn't have a great deal to play for in terms of making the finals, but it just showed the character of the group. If they didn't have character, they probably would not have gone out and played with the same intensity they did that night. And might say, well, Penrith was safe. On the other hand, that may be the case too. But if we look at the way we performed, because there's two things, performance and results. You can control your performance to a large degree. Results sometimes, you don't have as much control over. But the way that we finished a year like that showed a bit of character into the group. So, individually and collectively, I think, we can take a fair bit out of it, and it's created a burning desire and hunger for the team to return to the finals next year.
I think we spoke about that in the wake of that win, 60s, in that we'd had a couple of important games slip through our hands. The Roosters game probably most notably when we were still in the hunt for the finals. But I think that was an important result, a statement game in its own way to say that the club, the team, as much as they had their troubles in the season, they weren't going away just yet.
Yeah, and I don't think you can ever suggest that Penrith would take a game against Parramatta easy. No. Like if there's a club that they are absolutely determined
they've been
to not let...
quite vocal about it, haven't
they hate Parramatta. I mean, they have a... It wouldn't matter where the clubs are positioned on the ladder. The Penrith attitude towards Parramatta is we want to beat them every time. And the fact is that when it's come to regular season games, Parramatta's been able to match the Panthers. It's we would like to do it in the
post-regular season games. Don't get me
That's
wrong.
right.
But I mean, that's healthy, the rivalry between
Yeah.
Parramatta and Penrith. You know, the Western Sydney sort of connection there, the link, and that's healthy because there's plenty of Parra fans out there that feel the exact same way about Penrith as what the Penrith fans do for Parramatta. So it's healthy and it's good and it makes it enjoyable.
I mean,
They're our little brother.
and
I'm not going there. I'm not going there.
there's definitely been
I'm
a few,
definitely not going there.
definitely been a few game of the year contenders in recent seasons between the two clubs. So the rivalry is very healthy, and the style between the two clubs, at least in the regular season, has been very interesting to watch on the field. So good stuff.
But look, I still want to go back to talking about this past season. I was critical about the lack of depth in the roster for the outside backs. Was that a fair assessment?
I think so. I guess there was a couple of players that we would have liked to have come on a bit quicker, or we needed to allow time to recover. And so I think Hayes Dunster, for example, coming off the back of a very, very serious injury some time ago, he was never going to be at his best, until 12 months had passed and beyond then. Such was the serious nature of his injury, and getting another preseason under his belt now will be terrific for him. We did use Isaac Lumilumi early on in the season as well. Sam Luizio had a few injuries that hampered his campaign as well too. So I think it's fair. And to your point earlier, where you made the point where you noticed the senior players and the younger players sort of connecting and spending some time and with one another, that's important that it plays for the depth, because when the players come into the squad, and they might not come into the squad until around 16, 17, 18, things like that, but when they come in, they need to feel like they belong immediately. And the more comfortable you are in terms of feeling like you do fit into that group, that environment, the better you'll perform. So I feel we've got some exciting young players coming through that are there or thereabouts around an NRL level.
So you mentioned all these different exciting pieces, the young players that you listed out before, Hayes Dunster coming back to full fitness. Are you happy with how the roster looks for season 2024?
Yes, I am. We've got one spot available on our roster as it stands today, so 29 signed. I think we've got great balance. I think there's great energy. There's great enthusiasm. I think they're being well coached, well prepared in terms of the training, being clear and explicit with expectations. And I think when you've got a good group of people that are working hard and that are talented, I think that a level of success is inevitably going to follow. And I am quite happy with where our roster is at the moment. I think that we probably could do with potentially another outside back, someone with some match winning sort of qualities around that could turn a game on its head, with a piece of brilliance, and they're hard to find sometimes, but we won't stop looking for that. Yeah.
And just on the recruits, we've added Morgan Harper and Kelma Tuilagi, and from what I've seen in the preseason so far, they're certainly ticking some boxes. I think they're probably two of the fittest new recruits that I've seen come to the club. They're right up there in how they've arrived. What sort of feedback have you had about them so far?
Yeah, I've had some great feedback. Kelma's a big man too.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't he?
Yeah, he's a unit.
He is a unit. He's a big man, and Morgan's fantastic. Jim Sarantinos and myself, we took them for lunch when they got here just to welcome them to the club and explain a little bit about the club, our history, etc. And Brad's put a lot of time in with them and their partners and family as well too. And the comment that the pair of them said is that they've never been taken to lunch before. They've never had that sort of level of interest. And I thought, well, that's interesting, because they're relatively young men, aren't they? But it just shows to the level of importance that we place upon those two players coming into the roster So the feedback's been good. They've trained hard. They've liked it, the transition here to our club, and they see what role they could play in the team and the squad, and it excites them. And they're all working hard, and they're all looking forward to pulling on that blue and gold jersey for the first time as well. So the feedback's been good, and observationally too, they've been quite impressive with how they've trained.
Yeah, as I said to you, I've certainly been impressed with how they've trained. And there was an interesting piece of media that only just came out too from Morgan Harper talking about his son being a passionate Parramatta supporter, and that and that it was meaningful for him. That not only was he pulling on the blue and gold this year for the fans, but just as importantly, he's pulling it on for his son.
Yeah.
And, that's I thought that was great. That was great content to have out there.
It was a great content. It talks to the person, it talks to his motivations, and talks to the type of kind of, person and people that you surround yourself with. So, yeah, it was a great piece.
And you sort of preempted the answer here with your good response before, but the Eels are still in the market to add to the squad for next season, and I suppose it comes in the case of, and I hate to use the term since the media love to splash around, but that X factor outside back. Yeah,
it's something like that could add a level of excitement around that there, and we've got some young players that's coming through that maybe down the track one or two of those could potentially be that person. But if there was somebody that could add immediate value now, I know myself, Brad, and the playing group, would be certainly interested in that. Just somebody that could, crack a game wide open for us, or come up with something that could turn a game. Yeah.
You haven't got any secret negotiations you want to share with us right now, have you?
Negative, sir. No, there's nothing in the pipeline just yet.
Okay. So we've touched on this already, but we do have to be careful about getting ahead of ourselves with emerging pathways players. But at the same time, it's difficult not to be excited about some of these young players that are coming through our systems. And it's not just the young blokes that are out there in getting the pre-season now, but it's a whole group of players that we're seeing coming through the elite pathway system. Should supporters be confident that the club is producing future quality Eels NRL players?
Yeah, look, absolutely. I guess the number one objective of any elite pathways program is to produce talent that will go through to the elite, being NRL competition or NRLW. Now that we've got that pathway as well for the women. So, and with the success of that program, there can be like a bit of a lag effect because they perform great today, but they don't make NRL until tomorrow, so to speak. So it's a good point you make about not getting ahead of ourselves, because whilst we're training hard and the players are giving us an insight into their ability, their capability, their skill, their fitness, their attitude, their leadership, etc. Every other club's doing the same thing as well. But I would like to think that we do have a special group there, which is backed up by the fact that we were premiers in the SG Ball competition in 2023. And with that success makes you a little bit hungrier for more. You actually know what it looks like. You're coming into a pre-season with the big boys, not assuming what success looks like. You actually know it, you've felt it, you've experienced it, and you want some more. So, and we had a fair few debutants in 2023 as well. Yeah, and that's important because having that visible pathway, a wise lady, Mary Kay, once told me you cannot be what you cannot see. And it's highly visible with all those players that come through and debut at our club, which will inspire the next generation to come through as well. So I think that our fans should be pretty excited about some of the players that we've got that are just not there yet, but will be very soon.
I'm very pleased to hear you quote a good friend of ours in Mary Kay. But
my daughter actually pulled her up on that, Mary Kay, when she said that, and she said, "Really, Dad? Yeah, that's a bit old school, that train of thought, isn't it?" I said, "You'll have to take that up with Mary."
But you mentioned about the debutantes, and I am going to single out a player just off the spur of the moment that looks to be having a completely different pre-season this season. And I don't want to put you on the spot in talking about individuals, but maybe it's a general statement you can make about the difference that it makes when someone gets an NRL debut, right? Luca Moretti. Luca is having a really, really strong pre-season. And what I'm looking at is it looks to me like it's someone who really believes in themselves out there. And I'm thinking, if this is the difference that debut in a season makes, it can be the making of a player that maybe was on the fringe and without that debut maybe wasn't gonna make that big step up.
And that's right, I agree. And it's a perfect example of giving a young bloke time to develop and then the opportunity, and let's just see what he's got. So he's hungry. He's got a good controlled aggressive streak in him, Luca. And he's with the time to just understand his game, understand how he fits in at the club, understand what's his role in the team, for him to feel like he does genuinely belong. Well, he feels that now. He knows that. So he's had that opportunity to live it and experience, and his peers have been terrific and enabling or accelerating that sense of belonging into the team, because Luca's as important as anyone else. They all play a role. Even out here, like at training, the way we train, that's a key success factor for us, and our style, the way we play. We train at a higher level, which in turn allows us to perform at a higher level. And Luca's, a wonderful example of that, because he's persevered and he's worked hard, and everything he's got, he's earned. And he can take a lot of confidence out of that and know that he's just got to repeat that and more this year, and he'll be in the team more often than not.
So we just missed the 8 most recent season pass, but just a year removed from a grand final. Where do we set a realistic goal for the Eels in 2024? Is it top 8 minimum? Is it top 4? We know I've got a good squad. How much of the season pass was just an aberration? You get back to really high goal setting.
Yeah, I personally believe, and it's a shared opinion within the footy department, that 2023 will be proven to be an outlier by our performances in 2024. With that said, I think the 3 teams that immediately missed out of the top 8 in the Cowboys, the Rabbitohs and ourselves, I think, we will, all 3 of us will improve, but so will the teams that are in the 8 as well. I think like Redcliffe will improve as well with some of the signings that they've got, led by Herbie Farnworth. I believe we're going to return back to the top 8 for sure. I don't want to sit here and and create any false hope or make any outlandish statements, but I genuinely believe we're going to be back in around that top 4, top 6 where we have been in the last 4 years prior to that. So, and everything that we see out here from the players on the field, the way that they're connected, and the way that some of the skill and hard work that they're showing, getting the volume into them right now so they'll have good seasons. I think there's a lot of individuals that'll have some really good seasons, and they were tracking to have good seasons in 2023, if not for a few hiccups here and there. So, yeah, I'd be very confident and tell our fans we'll be bouncing back to where we belong, or where we feel we belong.
Now, last season, a lot of fans were unhappy with the draw. But that's for a variety of reasons. Everything from being the only team not to have a bye during the Origin impacted rounds, playing teams coming off a bye, and for fans, very early on in the season, it was all about Thursday night and Friday 6 p.m. kickoffs. So it just made it difficult for fans to even get to games. From your perspective, has the draw been kinder to us for 2024, or is this just one of these things like the draw is what it is?
Yeah, well, it's funny. I'm having a chuckle as you ask the question, because I get a bit of criticism around here, because the draw for me, it never really bothers me, because when I say that, I'm talking from a football context. It does if you get too many poor time slots where you can't get crowds in or families friendly or viewership, things like that, so we can, try and fulfil some obligations around our sponsorships, etc. But from a footy perspective, I've never really sort of bought into it too much because you're basing off like last year's performances. Like, who would have thought the Warriors would finish where they finished, in 23? It's a little bit unpredictable, and we didn't have our best start of the year last year, did we? For a whole host of reasons, but our performances were still good. And I've mentioned about the difference in the past about performances and results. The results didn't go away, but they're only 2-point losses here and there, golden points, and I guess one of the games we did beat Penrith early. But with that said, it is acknowledged that I guess all coaches, all clubs like to get off on the right foot. It just gives a bit of breathing space to get that. You can't get your second win until you get your first one, and so on and so forth. But I'm comfortable with where we're at with the draw, and we're all excited. Just can't wait to rip in.
It is nice to have a bye in Origin this year, though.
Definitely, that is definitely the case. But I don't want to. I guess what I'm saying, I don't want to be sort of using that as an excuse to our performances last year. I owned it up front. We weren't good enough at the end of the day, and we'll be better next year. That's for sure.
I think it's the Dolphins get no bye during the Origin period this year. I don't understand how this works, that there's so many buys that it can't be. I mean,
clearly there is something to the formula, right? Because after 2 seasons, you'd think that they would have ironed that out. So, there must be something there.
But some teams get 2. It's just... Yeah. It's hard to work. It's hard to work out.
You've got to factor in so many scheduling conflicts and whatnot. It is a difficult set of juggling.
It is pretty complex, and sometimes you get a draw that on face value looks average, and then as the year goes, well, no, that's a pretty favourable one, and vice versa. Mm-hmm. And for us, we just take it as it comes, and we'll just do our best for each and every encounter every week, and I guess that's all you can do.
So switching.
You'd think if we're located somewhere that's still called the Shire, like this is the Hill Shire, the other place that's located somewhere called the Shire, they do pretty well for themselves.
So switching to the macro lens here and looking at the total football program from top to bottom, it's been a transitional off-season for a lot of changes. Firstly, we have new head coaches in all the junior rep teams and the Jersey Flag, all are in their respective pre-seasons. How has the coaching transition been working for each of those squads?
It's been working very well. We've James Shepherd looks after the elite pathways, and he has an incredible work ethic. The amount of hours that he applies to the program, both male and female, is enormous, and they're paying dividends for that. We did increase our investment in our elite pathways in the last 12 months or so, and that's credit to our board and CEO Jim Sarantinos from approving the recommendations put through and acknowledging and understanding the relative importance of a pathways program in a development club like Parramatta. So with that, it's seen a bulked up coaching capability. It's been a bulked up athletic performance capability. It's all consistent with our development club philosophy. And of course, we also know that whilst we're looking after the coaching and the athletic performance part, it's underpinned by the care that we have for our players and their family. And if I may just plug our education wellbeing team, led by Dave Gower, and in his team it's got George Danzy and Arnie Chrissy. They were industry recognised of being top of the pile, first for NRL, NRLW, and Elite Pathways. So we look like we're trying to give the holistic experience and build that capability into our players, not just on the field, off the field. So the pathways really is the breeding ground to get as many players as we can into that elite program. So they've all settled in really well, the coaching staff, and we have higher expectations now in that space, not just from performances, because remember the number one priority is to get as many players as we can from our elite pathways through to our elite programs, NRL, NRLW. And if I think of Lindsay Tui, she did it in the same year, didn't she? Come through the Tasha Gale, and next thing you know, she's already made her NRLW debut and played a few games. What a star she is.
Yeah, absolutely. And also want to echo talking about the welfare and education team, because I don't think you could get three better people to all be together in the one unit at a club. I think we're blessed there.
That's amazing. I see that, like even some of the young boys or young men, when they come off after the game, straight over, give Auntie Chrissy a cuddle before they go to their friends and family. She's like, hey, you come over here, and it's good because, the players know that they care. And we just recently had a parents' induction day where we got a chance to get in front of the parents, introduce ourselves. They could put a face to the name. We could show a little bit about the program, because their child or children spends many, many hours, with us at the club. So it's important that they get to see who we are and what we do and what we stand for. So to give some confidence in the program, and we've all got the confidence in the program and the outputs they're delivering in that elite pathways. But it's good to showcase that to others so they understand as well too that your child or the player, whilst we want to keep the main thing, we do want to make sure that we do have better people for the experience they've had with our club than not.
Well, I also want to point out that it's obligatory for us to as well to give Auntie Chrissy a hug when we arrive, as we did today. All of us, actually. But no, I mean, it's true what you say about the amount of time that the young players spend with the coaches and staff when they're in these elite pathways. It's almost the same as like for my own experience as a teacher, how important it was to realise, the role that I had. I was there with their kids for probably as much time in a day as what the parents would be in terms of waking hours that they get to spend on a normal day. And it's, with that comes a real responsibility. And therefore the club has that responsibility to be, like the training that was done the other week, that first aid, the mental health first aid, just being, you're a first responder. You're there all the time with the young people and looking for signs to be that first responder there. You may not be the staff may not be the professional that helps them with it, but to be able to take care of a moment or to convince them they need to talk more with other people or whatever the case may be in terms of the action plan. Being trained in an action plan and how to recognise things is vitally important stuff.
Oh, look, 100%. And you touched on a good point there, with your reference to the teaching days, is because sometimes people just need to know you care and they need to feel that someone believes in them. And that's, one of the wonderful things about our game. It's a game for everybody. And the education and wellbeing department is the most important thing in a football program in my mind. And that's to say that, we've got some wonderful people working the program, but we've got to allow our young men and women to be young men and women. And they're going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
They are. We all make mistakes. And to be there to understand that, okay, that's all right. Now let's, collectively guide our way through it. We're here for you. And we don't want to keep making the same ones over and over again. But I think part of life today and the challenges for the youth is that sometimes as parents you hover over the kids and you don't allow them to make mistakes and learn from it. And, there's the flip side where they might not have the level of parenting that they otherwise would desire or like to have had. So being there to understand all people are different and footy's the common connector around it. And the reality is most of them overwhelmingly are not going to get there to play NRL. But that's okay, as long as we provide every opportunity to maximise your talent and give you the best possible chance to do that. And whilst we're doing that, build some capability in other areas. So it's about resilience and capability, not reliance and dependency.
Yes.
So yeah, it's a wonderful program that the Ed Wellbeing team deliver, and it's all underpinned by care for the player.
Now Nathan Brown's moving on. He's still like we've seen him here. He's here today. He's working up until you take your Christmas break. It was a short but successful tenure. What is it that he brought to the Eels during his time here?
Well, Brownie, he'll be sadly missed. Mm-hmm. In fairness, he's relocating to the Gold Coast where he's always wanted to do. He spoke to us about that some time ago. He's up from Casino McLean Way. His family's there, and he's taken the family all around the world really. And we're at the stage he's at in his life and the ages of his children. If he didn't make the move now, it might just be him and Tanya going without the kids. So that was the decision that he made, which we knew about for some time, and we were hopeful that it would have been deferred for a year or two. But Brownie has brought a unique coaching style to an Elite Pathways. Not only a unique coaching style, but the experience and talent that he's got. Like, he's a 250-game NRL coach. He's won silverware in the UK. He's been a player through a Pathways. He's coached in Pathways. He's worked under many great coaches. And his style, his communication and coaching style is a little different as well too. When I say different is that it's good that players should be able to respond to a number of different styles and coaches and things like that. So he was all about his sort of shared experiences, and we work it out together, and he's firm and tough when he needs to be, but his style had great appeal with some of our players, and there's no doubt that Brownie himself could be solely responsible for the development of a lot of those players that we see training with our NRL squad today, because he's made them better footballers.
We heard nothing but positive comments about him, and even when we did our special on the Parra House and were speaking to the young players there in the Parra House, there was mention made of Nathan Brown as just being someone they could just go and talk to. Yeah.
And that's good, because he would do the one-on-ones in here with the players, having the full-time resource. There's not too many clubs that have that level of expertise and credentials in a role like like Brownie and we do here. But he also brings a bit of energy and a bit of vibe into the business. It's he keeps Jim happy down that other end as well too. With a few jokes just to crack him up when things are tough. And he does it for all of us. To be fair, he's just a good guy that cares for his players, cares for his workmates, and he's done a wonderful job.
And of course, replacing him was always going to be a challenge. But the appointment that you ended up going for, from what I've seen, has been very widely received in a positive light. Steve Georgallis steps in a dual capacity as both the Elite Pathways coaching director and the NRLW head coach. So he's going to obviously be handling things sort of in almost two sections of the year, right, in that regard. But on the NRLW front, can he turn things around for our women's team next year? It was a bit of a struggle for them in the season just past.
Yeah, it was. We went through our lessons learned register, if you like, at the end of the year, like we always do, and there was a few areas that we needed to pick up on around, I guess our training, our loads, our preparation, and it was a difficult year with the 4 new teams being implemented.
Massive
so recruitment was a challenge. We had players agree and then not agree and go elsewhere. There was a few issues around that, but what I will say that we did have this year was a very connected group of players, even more so when you think of where we finished, because it would be very easy to start pointing the finger and turning on one another, and the fact that didn't happen just spoke about the connectivity. Now, that's not ideal. You'd want to be, obviously like to be winning the competition as well, but Georgie has got a style which I think will resonate with the women's game. He's got genuine enthusiasm and a strong desire to work in that space, because the women are sponges for knowledge. They've got plenty of questions they want to learn, And that's really appealing to Georgie around that space. His style, in a similar manner to Brownie as well, is about sharing that experience that he's got, guiding you through, have that conversation. He's all about connecting with the player and understanding the player first. And I think in this day and age with our pathways, that's an important ingredient for any young man or woman coming through playing the game, is having someone there that you connect with and care and try and drive better. And with the women's game, Georgie's got that level of plantedness, that expertise, that sharp. He's very hard, right, when he needs to be, but fair. And I think he'll sharpen that edge to our NRLW team that we need, because we've got some good players there.
Yeah,
we do have got some good players.
We've
got some of tomorrow's stars.
Yeah.
And just on the team itself, can we expect any significant recruitment to add to the roster from that we had last season?
Look, we'll be making some announcements shortly around some of the players that we have recruited, where 21 players signed out of the 24. So, and a lot of the players that are younger will be better for the run and or for that experience, and will develop. And I think I've mentioned Lindsay before, but Boss, Cassie, Abby.
Wow. Yeah.
You know, there's
a couple of great players there.
Yeah, and you think of Mahalia, Elsie, and Rachel, along with sort of Kennedy, who's our current international. We've got some talent there. We just need to continue to work hard, build the depth, and if we can land one or two more, that'd be that's what we're trying to do.
Yep.
Now, you've sort of delivered some of this as we've spoken, but in terms of a sign-off, do you have a message for Eel supporters as we get closer to the 2024 season?
Yeah, look, I do. I think that, firstly, thank you for your continued support for our club, our team. As a leader of the footy department, I sincerely appreciate that. We've had a conversation internally about the connectivity focus for next year amongst our community, our partners. So we want to live and breathe our values throughout all levels of football and all levels of network, and that's united, accountable, respect, and all in. And we want to make sure that we produce a program, a team, and performances that can make everybody proud. And if we can do that and unite our community, get as many people as possible to identify as an Eel, and just have that sense of belonging in our club where we can all be proud of, and then that'll help us deliver our vision of being the pride of the Rising West. So that's what I'd like to say. Thank you, and watch out for that connectivity moving forward.
Well, thank you, Mark, for joining us on the tip sheet. We appreciate the fact that whether it's a great season like 2022 or a disappointing season like 2023, you're always happy to front up and answer our questions, and that's not wasted on us and our fans and our listeners. So thanks for giving us your time, mate. We know you're busy, and we wish you, your family, everyone at the club a very, very Merry Christmas.
Thank you. And in just finishing off, I'd just like to say thank you for all that the Cumberland Throw does for our club. We really appreciate it. So thank you, gents, and I hope you enjoy the festive season and have a few beers and enjoy it, and buckle up for 2024 as soon as we come back.
Thanks, mate.
Cheers.
Obviously, a massive thank you there to Mark O'Neill for giving us his time today to sit down and chat about all things Parramatta from season 2023 into what's going to happen next year. And that isn't a wrap for us on the tip sheet this week. Stay tuned for our usual news and NRL podcast, which will be coming out on, I believe, Thursday. But until then, stay safe, guys. Thanks for stopping by. And in lieu of 60s, go you mighty Eels.